Welcome to the Planet B podcast, where truth, transformation, and faith converge. Join us as we flip the script on ecological despair, guided by Dr. Sailesh Rao's vision for a compassionate, rewilded vegan world. Let's begin the journey to the greatest transformation in human history.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Planet B podcast, episode 15, the Vegan Rewilding Solution. Dr. Rao, this is going to be a really good one.
Yes. It puts it all in a nutshell, what is the solution to all our problems? And I start with a quote by Dr. Michael Greger, who said, "We should all be eating fruits and vegetables as if our lives depend on it." Because it does.
Yes, it does.
Collectively, it does. Very much so. And fruits, vegetables, and then grains, nuts, seeds, plant-based foods and whole plant foods should become normalized. And that's the solution to planetary health. It's a solution to human personal health. And it's a solution for sustainability.
The big question, Dr. Rao, is what would happen to our Earth if humanity went vegan?
If humanity went vegan, everyone started eating healthy plant foods. Health becomes normalized as opposed to diseases. And then you will discover that you need far less land to grow our food than we use today. Which means you can return 40% of the land area of the planet back to nature, on which you can restore the original ecosystem that used to be there. It could be mangroves, it could be prairies, it could be the original ecosystems. So forests, mangroves, prairies, anything that was there before, you can restore them. And when you restore that, you give land back to the wild animals. So the wild animal population will start growing again. If you look at the statistics today, of all the mammals on Earth, 36% is human beings in terms of total weight. 60% is all the animals that we raise on farms, and only 4% is wild mammals. Right?
It's unbelievable. It's so crazy.
Now, if you look at just land mammals, it is 37% for human beings, 61% for farmed animals, and only 2% for all the land mammals. It becomes 4% when you include all the whales and the fish put together. Okay, so returning 40% of the land back to nature and not using farmed animals for our food suddenly rebalances the weight of mammals on the planet. You take the 36% that's human beings, and then you don't have the 60% that's land mammals for farming, and then you return 40% of the land, so now the wild mammals can grow back. Okay.
Right.
And especially when you also stop fishing, the mammals in the ocean will also recover. So it addresses the number one planetary boundary transgression, which is the loss of biosphere integrity. Immediately, it addresses that. There used to be 5 to 6 trillion trees on the planet. And by chopping down forests and turning that into grazing land, we have cut half the trees on the planet. So there are now only 3 trillion trees. So when you return 40% of the land back to nature, you can restore the 3 trillion trees that you cut. So the number of trees on the planet goes from 3 trillion back to 6 trillion again. And those extra 3 trillion trees that grow will suck up the chemical pollution that's there on the planet. And they will store the chemical pollution in their trunks as they grow. Okay? So it cleans up the second worst planetary boundary transgression, which is novel entities. It literally starts cleaning the planet when you do that. So the vegan rewilding solution has immediately addressed the top two.
Right away.
Right away. Okay? Start sucking it up. And of course, you have to stop, pouring 220 billion tons of chemical pollution into the environment every year, which we do for mainly because we think that brown toilet paper is no good. It has to be white. Things like that, right? So we do silly things like that in order to pollute the earth. Okay? So a lot of the chemical pollution is unnecessary that we are doing. So we have to rethink all our processes. But the existing pollution gets cleaned up right away with those trees. And the third is nitrogen and phosphorus loading. So that's the third worst planetary boundary transgression. So that's the excess nitrogen that we are taking from the air and converting it into fertilizer and pouring it on our land to grow crops. And half the crops, half the grains are being used to feed animals. So when you no longer have to grow animals, you don't need all those crops. So I claim that we can cut down at least a quarter of the grains that we are growing. Even if you say I need to use the other extra in order to address world hunger, but you can cut down on the nitrogen and phosphorus use by at least a quarter. So that addresses the third planetary boundary transgression. And when the trees come back, the trees are going to be sequestering CO2 from the atmosphere. Okay, so you will see the CO2 levels start decreasing in the atmosphere instead of increasing all the time. So when people talk about not burning fossil fuels, they're only talking about not increasing the CO2 level in the atmosphere. They're not talking about decreasing. You cannot decrease the CO2 levels in the atmosphere by installing solar panels and driving electric cars. The only way you can do that is by bringing back the trees to restore the forests on the land. Okay? All of these machines that we do to suck CO2 cost trillions of dollars. And it's unclear what you're going to do with that CO2 after you suck it down. They think it's going to stay down there forever. No, it'll pop up. So, whereas trees can store them forever, okay, if you restore the forest. So it addresses the number 4, climate change as well. Number 5 is land use. That's the 5th planetary boundary transgression. There again, when you return 40% of the land back to nature, you are restoring that. So you are addressing that planetary boundary transgression fundamentally. Number 6 is water use, a freshwater change. By bringing back the forests, you're restoring the freshwater cycles of the planet. You're repairing them. Okay. And then number 7, ocean acidification. Now, ocean is becoming more acidic because there is more CO2 in the atmosphere. And that CO2 dissolves in water and becomes carbonic acid. That's why the ocean is becoming more acidic. Now, when you start reducing the CO2 in the atmosphere, because you brought back the 3 trillion trees that we cut, the ocean will become less acidic. So it addresses number 7 as well. So can you imagine, this one simple change, going vegan and rewilding the planet, addressing all 7 planetary boundary transgressions. And yet people don't want to see it. And I'm saying, hello, what kind of scientist are you if you don't see this as a solution?
One of the most fascinating parts about this too is, Dr. Rao, you're using their data to prove this. It's not, this stuff isn't coming out of thin air. It's not coming from a magic hat. Like, this is data from these organizations. You're
Correct.
just putting it together and showing it to them.
Correct, yeah. It's IPCC's 5th assessment report and 6th assessment report. That's all I'm using. And using the data in those assessment reports, I'm saying the data is screaming at me to implement the vegan rewilding solution to all 7 planetary boundary transgressions. Okay. Now, Eat Lancet Commission. They have come up with a planetary health diet, which calls for a 50% reduction in the use of animals. Okay, so it's saying cut down on the animal use by 50%, and that will solve all the problems. I don't know, even if you do 100%, whether we can fill all the holes we have already created in the biosphere integrity. Okay, and I don't know if it will restore chemical pollution, if it cleans it up enough for life to thrive. Right now we know that life is on a death spiral. So every 2 years we see that the wild animals are decreasing. This is why these two transgressions are in the purple zone. So I don't know, even if we go 100%, if the death spiral will become an upward spiral, filling all the holes in biosphere integrity and cleaning up the chemical pollution to the point where life can thrive. So I don't know how they came up with the 50%. And that too, such a nice round number.
Sounds like they don't want to move away from planet A.
So I asked them, how did you come up with this? In my estimation, I don't know if 100% will also solve the problem. I'm saying we have to do 100% and check it. But if you go and say, I know that 50% will solve all the problems, you better have good models to show that. And you better have models that match reality. And I don't know how they can build models that are that complex, that would match reality of an entire planet, right? How do you create a model that matches how a planet will behave? You can only approximate it. I begin with a position of humility that even with 100%, I don't know. Okay? Because there is nothing that tells me that 100% is enough. I say we have to go 100% and try it out. Okay? And see what else we have to address beyond that. So I'm absolutely not going to put my name on anything that says 50% is enough. As an engineer, I could never do that. I have integrity not to do that, right? And when I asked these authors of the planetary health diet, how did they come up with these numbers? Their answers were unsatisfactory. Okay. Basically, they said that they put it in their model and it seemed to stabilize it. Stabilizing it is not enough. You have to restore it.
With the terminology, stabilizing it would just mean that all of the issues we face today would continue.
Yeah. Things don't get better. They just stay the same. And they'll stay the same according to your model. But are you sure it'll stay the same in reality?
Right.
And then are you going to come back and say, excuse me, it has to be 75%? I said, just put it out there on the table and have some humility, instead of saying, I know it's going to stabilize. It's like putting out a fire. You have to put out the fire completely. You cannot say, I can let half the fire burn.
It's so common sense when you really think of it in that way.
Yeah. And also, when you do 100%, you have to change the entire foundations. So they're saying you don't have to address the foundations. You don't have to address the protein myth. You don't have to address the calcium myth. You don't have to address the growth myth. Right? You just have to decrease it temporarily by 50% and then continue growing. What happens when you continue growing? It'll increase from 50% back to what it was. So it's not well thought out. It's not an engineering solution. It's not done by engineers. It's done by politicians, if you ask me. It is not based on science.
It's exciting because at least we're seeing it. That's step one. Because if no one was seeing it, that would be the biggest problem. But there is people that are seeing it, and then it just takes sharing it with one person, and then before you know it, it spreads around the world.
Absolutely, because when you know there is a solution, and it's also about examining everything that we are doing together. So it's like rebuilding, re-engineering human engineered systems and making them all come into alignment with nature, right? So when you do a comprehensive transformation like that, why wouldn't we want to be part of it? We are in that position. We have to address everything together, right. and not try to retain the colonial remnants.
And I've seen this firsthand where when when I share your data with people, immediately you do see a spark. People who do eat meat or they're not moving in this direction yet, but when they understand the data and they see it from the scientific side, it's, it does plant a seed, and that seed can grow very quickly as well.
We have to be very dispassionate when it comes to the science and the data. Share with people exactly what is going on, and that there is a solution, and that solution has to be embraced fully, not half-heartedly.
I know this is maybe redundant at this point, but scientifically and statistically, do you see any other solution besides the vegan lifestyle to address these issues?
I don't see anything that comes close to addressing all 7 planetary boundary transgressions, as well as the social justice issues. I don't see any other solution that comes even close to it. Okay, all these other solutions that people are working on, like are technological solutions that are trying to maintain the system, like a CO2 sucking machine. Well, you addressed CO2, but you didn't address anything else.
Essentially, is that machine just a replacement for a forest?
Yeah, it's a replacement for trees. Yeah,
it's just shocking. It's like we could just plant the trees.
Right. Yeah. But it says that, well, we have to continue eating animals. Therefore, we need more and more land. And let's put a CO2 sucking machine, which is like a compressed tree, right? That stores it in, instead of in the trunks, it stores CO2 in liquid form somewhere.
Yeah.
And you have to use a bunch of fossil fuels to run that machine, or solar panels to run that machine. Yeah. That's the kind of solution that people are coming up with, and it doesn't even come close to what the vegan rewilding solution can do. This is why I've been promoting the vegan rewilding solution for all of our environmental and social justice issues for the last, 15 years. I've been talking about this. So the more I study it, the more I'm convinced that this is the only way to go.
All right. And Dr. Rao, I feel you're always very approachable. So if anyone is watching this and they want some of the data, I would just encourage you to reach out to Dr. Rao. I mean, you're always willing to help, and you're very graceful with your time. So thank you for that.
Oh, my pleasure. And all the data is already there in the public domain.
Dr. Rao, something that we haven't touched on yet is just what is the significance of not only eating a vegan diet, but actually living a fully vegan lifestyle?
Yeah. So if you say, I'm only going to change my diet, but I'll continue wearing leather shoes, leather jackets, and so on, people are going to raise the animals just to skin them. Okay? So the vegan rewilding solution depends on the fact that you don't use animals for any purpose whatsoever. Only then can you return the land back to nature. If you use animals for their skin, people are going to be raising animals just to get their skin, and therefore that land use dividend doesn't come. It's not there, right? So to get that land use dividend, you have to completely transform our economy from an economy that uses animals to an economy that's based fully on plants. So this is why it is not just an economic transformation, it's also a spiritual transformation. It's also a cultural transformation. It's a complete whole system transformation that needs to happen for us to get that dividend. If you look at the data, our animals are providing us with 190 million tons of food on our plate in terms of dry weight. But our animals are also providing us with 140 million tons of skin and blood and bones for all the other uses, for making glue, for making medicine, for making clothes, for making shoes, and all kinds of things. Right? So there's an entire industrial apparatus that's using the remains of animals for other purposes. And now we also have vegan versions of all of them being built already. So it's about completing that and creating a completely plant-based version of human economy.
Dr. Rao, it's an exciting time to be alive. 2026 is going to be a very exciting year.
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to everyone embracing this and moving forward, because we have to do it quickly, right? Nature is telling us, do it quickly. It's like when you discover you have a fire in your home. You don't sit around saying, how long can we sit around until the fire, becomes unmanageable? No, you get up and you start putting out the fire as quickly as possible.
Wonderful. So going into the next episode, chapter 16, we'll be looking at the animal agriculture position paper that Dr. Rao wrote, and it takes another look at the data. So very, very clear from a statistical standpoint on why vegan rewilding is the solution. Dr. Rao, would you like to share any final words as we close out episode 15?
Yeah, thank you for being with us until now. And we are halfway there. And the rest of the way, it's going to be even more exciting, because we're going to explore how this solution impacts every aspect of our lives.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone for joining us. Thank you so much, Dr. Rao, for your time. And we're halfway there. We got a fun half to go.
This has been a podcast from Planet B, where the future sends thank you notes. If you haven't moved here yet, we thank you for visiting.